Does anyone remember Codename Kids Next Door? Who doesn't love a good cartoon? I mean, some of the most iconic TV shows ever are cartoons. Euphoria? I get my taste of women from Kim Possible. Stranger Things? No, sorry. But the strangest thing is that it's actually a ripoff of Scooby-Doo. Breaking Bad? You mean Breaking Bob? Just to clarify, I like all the TV shows I just mentioned. They just don't beat the good old classic cartoons. I mean, Breaking Bad might, but that's the exception. And to be more specific, I'm not talking about the super meta adult cartoons either. Things like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Rick and Morty. They're all classics, sure. But I'm talking about the family-friendly stuff. The stuff that's still entertaining, despite aging like Christopher Walken in a milk factory. In comes Codename Kids Next Door, the show that I could never properly pronounce as a kid because there was just too many syllables. You read the title of this video, you saw the thumbnail. Does anyone remember this fucking show? In case you don't know, Codename KND, that's short for Kids Next Door, is an American animated television series created by Mr. Warburton for Cartoon Network. It technically aired new episodes from 2001 all the way to 2008, and it's honestly just a fucking sick show. When I structure these videos, usually it's like a 1 hour movie or something, but this TV series actually has over 80 episodes, and each episode has like 2 segments. So, to make things easier, I'm gonna walk through just one of my favorite segments to see if it's still as good as I remember it. This episode is called Operation Teeth. That stands for Tooth Extracting Enemy Terrorizes Headquarters. What? So, a couple ground rules before we start. There's 5 main kids in this show. They don't use their actual names, but instead they're each assigned a number from 1 to 5. Each kid looks visibly different from one another, and they all have their own personality traits and ideals, but they are usually fighting to achieve the same goal. Think of them as the Avengers from Wish. So this story begins with number 3. She's the quirky, silly one who tends to inadvertently save the day. She's also Japanese. She's eating some candy, skipping down the sidewalk, having a good time, but we find out she has one major flaw. Turns out, she's actually European. I'm gonna cry, that's so sad. We see number 3 walking into a dirty alleyway all alone, which sounds dangerous, but it is the middle of the day. What's the worst that can happen? Right. The sun and moon just swap sides like they're playing CSGO or something. Maybe the moon wanted to use the AK-47. I don't know. Suddenly, this turns into a problematic situation for number 3, especially when you consider that Mr. Game & Watch recently escaped prison. A shadow approaches her, she screams, she drops all of her candy, and a few moments later, she finally emerges from the dirty alleyway to reveal every kid's worst nightmare. Her teeth are using Discord on light mode. We also see the dude who did this to her. He's holding a toothbrush and his name is Night Brace, I guess. This villain is actually voiced by Tom Kenny, who you might know as the voice of everyone ever. And the scene cuts and we're taken to the kids next door's house. Or treehouse thing, I guess. Number 1 is getting impatient because number 3 hasn't arrived with the candy yet. Number 1 is pretty smart. He's the leader of the group, but he's also British. We're introduced to number 4, who's impulsive, loves hand-to-hand combat, and is Australian. Number 2, who's an inventor, a pilot, and quote, an American boy who loves eating chili dogs, a true patriot. And number 5, who is the second in command, and is laid back and cool, I guess. I don't know. She doesn't really do anything. So everyone looks at number 3 and is like, where the hell you been? And number 3 just shows her teeth, which makes everyone freak out because
your teeth should look like this, or this, or this.
So they do the logical thing and decide to go visit the candy store again, but this time all together. On the way there, they're just like stopped by a dentist, I guess. A little weird. The dentist offers them a quick teeth cleaning, an unnecessary detail for some reason.
First is the brushing. Then there's the scraping, and the scrubbing, and the spitting. Oh!
The kids next door say, no thanks, and the dentist gets pretty mauled about it. I wonder if that means anything. They get to the candy store, and turns out it's closed, because of course it is. It's like midnight. But the owner of the candy store comes out and allows them to buy some goodies, because the kids are his best customers. I guess they just get candy here all the time. We get this scene where they all go crazy and buy a bunch of candy, and then on their way home, number 4 is talking mad shit about the dentist, right? Because he doesn't like him. And in the middle of his speech, this happens.
And if he brings out the floss, then I'll give him the old wumpa dumper, and then finally, number 4 shuts up.
So the kids next door finally get home to find number 4. I guess he was abducted while they were all walking together and then somehow made it to the house before everyone else did. And also he's like tied up and in some sort of brace thing in his mouth to make his teeth whiter, I guess. I don't know how Night Brace had time to set this all up, but the kids also live in a fucking world tree, so what do I know? So attached to number 4 is a note that tells the kids that they need to brush their teeth and floss or else. And then almost instantly, both number 2 and number 5 go missing. Number 1 starts freaking out, but he quickly finds them. Okay, they're outside, except they're actually tied up in a giant web web of dental floss. I'm starting to see a trend here. Okay, what's going on? Who's doing this? Who could it possibly be? The kids don't really know who it could be, but they do decide to come up with a plan to trap Nightbrace and take him out. So they go back to the dirty alleyway, which is right next to the dentist's office, by the way, and set up a very convincing dummy, which actually fucking works for some reason. The kids catch Nightbrace in the act and try to stop him. Okay, listen, this is a very cinematic fight scene where all the main characters try to take down the purple bad guy. You might recognize this as the scene that's solely responsible for the highest grossing franchise in movie history. Just saying, I don't know. Anyway, they all fight, but it just completely backfires. Turns out that Nightbrace actually ends up getting away, so they chase him into the dentist's office where they crush all of his bones. And then when they have him on the ground, right where they want him, we finally get the big reveal, the big payoff.
Did someone call my name?
But if you're not, and you're the, but he, just as I suspected.
Turns out Nightbrace wasn't the dentist after all. It was the candy store owner. What an absolute mind-blowing plot twist. This is cinema. We get the candy store owner's backstory. We find out that he always wanted to be a dentist, but he got kicked out of college because he tried to put braces on babies. I'm not kidding. And because of that, he was forced to take over his family's candy shop business. He explains that it hurt him every day seeing the kids ruin their teeth on the candy that he supplied them. So he decided to put on some costume and, quote, correct the damage he's done.
To correct the damage I done.
At this point, I'd like to point out that the show is actually really fucking clever because the candy store is also next to the alleyway. And when Nightbrace jumped through the window to get away, it was actually the candy store window that he jumped in, not the dentist's office. I honestly can't believe I'm complimenting the show on this, but it's got clever continuity, at least in this storyline. So after he's done monologuing, Nightbrace jumps into his high-tech dentist chair, which was another idea Marvel stole from this 2003 episode of a kids show. He sticks all the kids to the wall with what I can only hope is toothpaste and grabs number one so he can force him to brush his teeth. He's got to force this dude to do it. But all of a sudden, the actual dentist comes to the rescue. He throws some taffy on Nightbrace, and it turns out Nightbrace is just heavily addicted to this stuff. Can't get enough of it. So while he's eating it, Taffy just gets stuck in his robot chair thing, and everything just breaks down. So number one is saved, I guess. Nightbrace is no more, and there's only one more question on the kids' minds.
What'll happen to the candy store?
Oh, my lazy brother-in-law will be happy to take over. But in the meantime, how about that free checkup?
And that's it. That's Operation Teeth from Codename Kids Next Door. Surprisingly, still a really entertaining show. The comedy holds up and the scenes are goofy enough to keep you invested. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid number 5 out of 5. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.
The damage I done.